Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep into Chinese political philosophy
Ooh,
during the Han Dynasty.
sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and you've sent over these intriguing excerpts from,
I did.
which translates to the philosophical code of the Central Empire.
That's right.
I'm really curious to see what we uncover.
Me too.
It's a period
Yeah.
rich with philosophical debates,
Oh, yeah.
particularly around the legitimacy of imperial rule.
Especially,
Imagine this.
yeah.
In ancient China, the emperor's right to rule wasn't just a given.
Right.
It was a question that philosophers grappled with constantly.
A real head scratcher for them.
So unlike in
Yeah.
some other empires where rulers might claim divine rights or lineage,
Yeah,
the Han emperors had to actually justify their existence.
exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
It is pretty wild when you think about it.
So this wasn't just an abstract philosophical problem.
Mm-hmm.
It had very real consequences for how the empire was governed.
Absolutely. It shaped everything.
The book focuses on the Han Dynasty.
Yeah, right.
And I have to admit, my knowledge of that period is a bit rusty.
Okay.
Refresh my memory.
Sure.
Why was the Han Dynasty such a big deal?
Well, it was a pivotal era in Chinese history.
Okay.
It lasted for over 4 centuries.
Wow.
It was a time of great cultural and economic flourishing.
I see.
But it was also marked by
Okay.
constant struggles to consolidate power and maintain stability.
So like internal strife.
Yeah, exactly. And at the heart of these struggles was this fundamental question.
Okay.
How do you justify the existence of an empire and the authority of the emperor who rules it?
That's a big question.
Huge.
So the stakes are high.
Very high.
We're talking about the very foundations of the empire here.
The bedrock.
Now, the book mentions a guy named Han Gaozu.
Mm-hmm.
He was the founder of the Han Dynasty,
Yes,
right?
he was.
Okay.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
He wasn't some highborn prince destined for the throne.
Right.
He was a commoner.
A commoner.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who rose to power through rebellion.
Oh, wow.
And let's just say he had a knack for seizing opportunities.
That's one way to put it.
So this commoner turned emperor suddenly finds himself on the throne.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the pressure he must have felt to prove he belonged there.
Right, like imposter syndrome, but on an imperial scale.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just about proving it to others.
Right.
He probably had to convince himself as well.
That makes sense.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You go from being an ordinary person to the most powerful individual in the empire.
I can't even imagine.
That kind of shift has to do something to your sense of self.
I bet it would. So how does he go about legitimizing his rule?
Well,
Does he hire a PR team?
in a way he did. But
Ah.
instead of PR, he turned to the intellectual heavyweights of his time,
Who would that be?
the philosophers.
Oh, interesting.
And this is where it gets really interesting,
Okay.
because you have 3 major schools of thought vying for influence:
Okay.
Confucianism, legalism,
Okay.
and Taoism.
Wow. So it's a philosophical battle royale.
You could say that.
Go.
Each offered a different answer to the question of legitimacy,
I see.
and their ideas shaped the course of the Han Dynasty in profound ways.
Okay, so we've got Confucianism, legalism, Taoism. It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Let's start with Confucianism, since the book seems to focus on that quite a bit.
Sure.
The good place to start.
Yeah,
Now, Confucianism at this point was already a well-established school of thought,
right.
with a focus on ethics, social harmony,
Uh-huh.
and the importance of rituals and traditions.
Yes.
But it faced a challenge in the context of the newly formed Han Dynasty.
Yeah, because remember, the empire was born out of rebellion,
Right.
which, according to Confucian principles, was a big no-no.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So how do you reconcile the Confucian ideals of order
Right.
and respect for authority
Yeah.
with the reality of a dynasty founded on a violent overthrow of the previous regime?
That does seem like a tricky situation.
That was a real dilemma.
Yeah. And it's here that we meet a fascinating figure,
Okay, who's that?
Chu Tang,
Okay.
a Confucian scholar who had served in the previous Qin court,
Oh, wow.
having witnessed the Qin dynasty crumble firsthand.
Oh, so he's seen it all.
He recognized the importance of establishing a strong sense of legitimacy for the Han.
So he's like, been there, done that. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Precisely.
Okay.
And his solution was to create a system of elaborate rituals and court etiquette
Interesting.
that would elevate the emperor to an almost godlike status.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Think grand ceremonies, specific ways of addressing the emperor,
Uh-huh.
and a whole visual language designed to reinforce the hierarchy and awe of the imperial court.
So pomp and circumstance?
Exactly.
It makes sense,
I
right?
like this.
If you want people to believe the emperor is special, you need to show it, not just say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like building a brand, but for an emperor.
You're getting it.
Okay.
And these rituals weren't just for show?
They were designed to instill a sense of respect and order in society.
Okay.
It was about creating a framework where everyone knew their place.
Uh-huh.
And the emperor at the top of the pyramid was seen as the ultimate source of authority.
Okay, so we've got Confucianism offering its solution. Rituals hierarchy.
Yeah.
A clear sense of order.
Right.
But you mentioned that other schools of thought were also in the mix.
Right.
Where do legalism and Taoism fit into this picture?
They offer very different approaches. And as we'll see, the Han emperors weren't afraid to experiment with different ideas to see what worked best.
So like trial and error on a grand scale.
You could say that.
But before we dive into those,
Yeah.
let's talk about why Sui and Tang's grand plan didn't quite achieve the desired outcome.
Okay.
Oh, there's a snake.
Yeah, there were a few.
I was just starting to think this Confucian approach was pretty clever.
It was clever, but it ran into some very real political obstacles.
What happened?
You see, while the emperor was trying to centralize power, he still had to deal with powerful regional lords
Right.
who had helped him overthrow the Qin dynasty.
Oh, so they felt entitled to some power.
Exactly, and these lords weren't too keen on giving up their autonomy and submitting completely to the emperor's authority.
I bet not.
So it's like a tug of war between the emperor trying to consolidate power and these regional lords clinging to their independence.
That doesn't sound like a recipe for stability.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And this tension leads to conflicts and rebellions, showing just how fragile the empire was in its early years.
So all those fancy rituals, they weren't enough
They weren't enough.
to hold everything together.
The Confucian rituals alone couldn't bridge the political divide or fully quell the ambition of these powerful lords.
So Confucianism round one, it's a valiant effort,
Yeah.
but not a knockout blow.
No.
What happens next?
Well, that's where things take a fascinating turn.
Ooh, a plot twist.
Enter Emperors Wen and Jing,
Okay.
who decide to explore different philosophical avenues.
Interesting.
They bring legalism and Taoism into the mix,
Ooh.
which leads to some surprising outcomes.
Okay. I'm all ears. Let's see what these other schools of thought have to offer.
Let's do it.
All right, so we left off with the Han Dynasty facing some serious growing pains.
They were.
The Confucian rituals, while impressive,
Yeah.
weren't quite enough to quell those power struggles with the regional lords.
Yep.
I'm guessing this is where legalism and Taoism enter the picture.
You got it. The next two emperors, Wen and Jing, decided to try a different approach.
Interesting.
Instead of focusing solely on rituals and appearances,
Right.
they sought more practical solutions for governing this vast and complex empire.
So it's like they're saying, okay, the fancy ceremonies are nice, but we need something more down to earth to keep things running smoothly.
Exactly, and they found that something in the seemingly contrasting philosophies of legalism and Taoism.
Really?
Emperor Wen, surprisingly, favored the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, non-action or effortless action.
Wu Wei. Now that sounds a bit counterintuitive for an emperor, doesn't it?
It does.
You'd think a ruler would want to be very hands-on,
Right.
controlling every aspect of the empire.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the idea behind Wu Wei is that by intervening less, you actually create more harmony and allow things to flourish naturally.
So less is more.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the old saying, don't fix what ain't broke.
Okay. I can see how that might work in some situations.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when things do need fixing? What about those rebellious regional lords? Surely you can't just ignore them and hope they go away.
You can't ignore them. That's where Emperor Jing and his preference for legalism came in.
Oh, right. Okay, legalism.
Legalism was all about establishing clear laws, a strong central authority.
Okay.
And yes, even punishments to maintain order and control.
So it sounds like we've got a good cop, bad cop situation going on here.
Yeah, you could say that.
Emperor Wen is all about letting things be. While Emperor Jing is laying down the law, did this two-pronged approach actually work?
It did. This period, known as the Wenjing era, is actually considered a golden age for the Han Dynasty.
Really?
By combining the Taoist principle of Wu Wei with legalist methods of control. They achieved a period of peace and prosperity that allowed the empire to recover and grow stronger.
So it was successful.
Very successful. People began to forget the chaos that preceded the Han Dynasty.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
They managed to find a balance between seemingly opposite philosophies and make it work. It's like they found the yin and yang of governing.
That's a great analogy. But as with most things in history, this balance didn't last forever.
I was just about to ask. There's always a but lurking around the corner, isn't there?
There is. You see, while legalism and Taoism offered practical solutions for governance, they didn't quite address that fundamental question we talked about earlier.
Right. That whole why should this dynasty be in charge issue. So they achieved stability and prosperity.
Yeah.
But it wasn't built on a solid ideological foundation.
It was more like a pragmatic fix.
Yeah, it's like building a magnificent palace on a shaky foundation.
Exactly. And this underlying tension paves the way for a resurgence of Confucian thought, but with a new twist.
Ooh, a plot twist.
Confucianism makes a comeback.
Right.
But it's not just a simple return to the old ways of rituals and etiquette.
Right, okay, there's a twist.
We see the emergence of new Confucian thinkers like Lu Jia and Jia Yi, who took those core Confucian principles and adapted them to the challenges of their time.
Interesting.
They both emphasized the idea that an emperor's legitimacy was tied to his moral character.
Oh, so it's not just about being powerful anymore.
Right.
It's about being a good person, a virtuous leader. Is this the beginning of the philosopher king idea we see in Western thought as well?
It's a similar concept, although with its own distinct Chinese characteristics.
Oh.
But here's where it gets even more nuanced. Lu Jia, while promoting Renyi, leaned towards the Taoist concept of Wu Wei.
So he's blending Confucianism and Taoism.
He is.
It's like he's creating a philosophical fusion cuisine.
He's taking the best of both worlds.
But Jia Yi, on the other hand, went in a different direction.
He did.
He emphasized the importance of Confucian rituals and laws.
Right.
To maintain order and guide the emperor's action.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have two Confucian thinkers, both advocating for a virtuous ruler.
Yes.
But with different interpretations of how to achieve that virtue. It sounds like the philosophical debate is getting even more complex and interesting.
Absolutely. And adding another layer to this complexity is the growing influence of a specific Confucian text called the Chengqi Gongyang Zhuan, or Commentary on the Spring and Autumn Annals from the Gongyang School.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
What's so special about this text?
This commentary offered justifications for a unified empire, something that resonated deeply with those seeking to legitimize the Han Dynasty.
So it's like a pro-empire manifesto.
In a way, yeah. It also hinted at a cyclical view of history, suggesting that the rise and fall of dynasties were part of a larger cosmic order.
Interesting. So it's providing a framework for understanding history.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be appealing to an emperor. It's like saying, hey, I'm not just some random guy who sees power. My rule is part of a grand cosmic plan.
You've got it. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Despite these new developments in Confucian thought, they didn't have an immediate impact.
Really? Why not?
Emperors like Wen, with their Taoist leanings, weren't quite ready to fully embrace this revitalized Confucianism.
So it's like these ideas were simmering, waiting for the right moment to boil over and reshape the political landscape.
Exactly. And that moment comes with the arrival of Emperor Wu, and a Confucian scholar who would become his chief advisor.
Who's that?
Dong Zhongshu.
Dong Zhongshu.
Okay. This is where Confucianism truly takes center stage and transforms into a powerful state ideology that would shape China for centuries to come.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Dong Zhongshu sounds like a key player in this story. What was it about his ideas that made them so influential?
He was a brilliant synthesizer, able to weave together different strands of thought into a grand unified theory of the universe and society. He drew upon the Gongyang Zhuan, incorporated elements of yin-yang theory, and even numerology.
Wow, he was pulling out all the stops.
To create a compelling vision of a divinely ordered world.
He sounds like a philosophical rock star. Tell me more about this unified theory. What was his big idea?
His most influential concept was Tianren-He.
Tianren-He,
which means heaven-human oneness.
Heaven-human oneness.
It's a worldview that sees the emperor as chosen by heaven, acting as its representative on earth.
Wow. So now the emperor isn't just a powerful ruler.
Right.
He's practically a demigod. I can see how that would solidify his authority.
Exactly. Rebelling against the emperor wasn't just a political act anymore. It was an act against the cosmic order itself. This concept gave the emperor immense power and justified his actions in a way that no other philosophy had done before.
So Dong Zhongshu really shifted the game.
He did.
But did this heaven-human oneness idea
Yeah.
just stay an abstract theory, or did it actually have practical implications for how the empire was governed?
It had very real consequences. Emperor Wu, under Dong Zhongshu's influence, implemented many Confucian rituals and policies.
Like what?
He reformed the calendar, changed the official colors of the empire,
Wow.
and emphasized the study of Confucian classics.
So he's putting these ideas into practice.
He was essentially turning Dong Zhongshu's ideas into state policy, shaping the very fabric of society according to this new Confucian vision.
It's like he was creating a cosmic stage with himself as the divinely appointed lead actor. But hold on, didn't you mention earlier that Confucianism had a darker side as well?
You're right, and unfortunately, Emperor Wu's reign also reveals that darker side.
What do you mean?
A new legal practice emerged known as chengqi judgments, where crimes were interpreted and punished based on vague moral principles from Confucian texts.
Wait, so instead of having clear laws,
Yeah.
they were judging people based on interpretations of ancient texts.
Basically.
That sounds incredibly subjective and open to abuse.
And it was. This practice led to arbitrary justice and was often used to silence dissent.
So the same ideology that promoted benevolence and righteousness could also be used to justify harsh punishments and suppress opposing viewpoints.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a stark reminder that even the most well-intentioned philosophies can be twisted and used for ill purposes.
Yeah, power corrupts.
It often does.
So Confucianism under Emperor Wu is a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it?
It is.
It brought stability and a sense of order, but at a cost.
But at a cost.
It's kind of a Faustian bargain.
You could say that this period marks the birth of Ruzhao, a new state-sponsored Confucianism that served as a powerful instrument for imperial control. It's a far cry from the Confucianism of Confucius himself, which focused on personal ethics and social harmony.
So it's like Confucianism 2.0 rebooted and rebranded to fit the needs of the empire.
Exactly.
It's less about individual morality and more about maintaining social order.
Right.
Even if it means using those Confucian principles to justify some pretty harsh practices.
You've hit the nail on the head, and this transformation had a profound and lasting impact on Chinese history.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We started with a commoner turned emperor grappling with the problem of legitimacy, explored the contrasting philosophies of legalism and Taoism.
We did.
And now we've seen how Confucianism rose to become the dominant state ideology.
Yeah.
But not without some significant compromises along the way.
That's right. It's been quite a journey through the philosophical landscape of the Han Dynasty, and this is just the beginning.
That was more.
The ideas we've discussed today would continue to be debated, reinterpreted, and reshaped for centuries to come.
Wow.
Influencing Chinese political thought and culture in profound ways.
That's what I find so fascinating about exploring history and philosophy.
Me too.
It's not just about memorizing names and dates.
Right.
It's about understanding how these ideas shaped the course of civilizations and continue to resonate even today.
Exactly. By understanding the past, we gain a deeper understanding of the present and perhaps even glimpse the possibilities of the future.
Well said. I'm eager to see where this exploration takes us next. But for now, let's take a moment to digest all this incredible information. It's like we've had a multi-course meal of philosophical ideas.
And stuff.
And I need a moment to savor it all. Okay, so much to think about already. We've been exploring how the Han Dynasty tackled those big questions of power and legitimacy.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It shows how even back then, governing wasn't just about force.
Right.
It was about ideas.
Ideas that shaped the whole empire.
Exactly, from rituals to laws to the emperor's own image.
We saw how Confucianism became the dominant ideology under Emperor Wu.
Right, but remember, it wasn't just pure Confucianism.
All right, it got mixed up with legalism.
Yeah, and that heaven-human oneness concept really changed things.
Gave the emperor a lot of power.
It did. It's a far cry from those early Confucian ideas about ethics and harmony.
So this Ruzhao, this new state-sponsored Confucianism, did it disappear when the Han Dynasty ended?
Not at all. It had a lasting impact.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Those ideas resonated for centuries in Chinese history.
So even later dynasties were influenced by this Han-era thinking?
They might have adapted things, but those core ideas stuck around.
Like that mandate of heaven idea?
Exactly.
Did that become like the standard for Chinese rulers?
Pretty much. It was this idea that heaven granted emperors the right to rule.
Okay.
And if they messed up, heaven could take it away.
So it's like a cosmic check on their power?
You could say that. It was used to justify rebellions, too.
Oh, so if an emperor lost the mandate of heaven, the people could overthrow him.
It happened quite a bit. It was a powerful concept.
So the emperor's relationship with the people was really important.
Crucial. He had to show he deserved the mandate.
By ruling justly.
Exactly, and bringing prosperity to the people.
If not.
Well, someone might claim he lost the mandate and start a rebellion.
Wow, so governing wasn't just about politics.
Yeah.
It was about keeping the cosmos on your side.
You got it.
And it wasn't just the mandate of heaven.
Right.
Tianren-He, too.
Yeah, that idea kept evolving, too.
What was that one again?
Heaven-human oneness. Remember, it's about interconnectedness.
Right, okay.
The emperor connected to humans to nature.
Yeah.
It's a big picture view.
So it went beyond politics.
Oh, yeah. It influenced art, literature, even medicine and astronomy.
It's amazing how these ideas, born out of the need for legitimacy, ended up shaping how people saw the whole universe.
It's remarkable, isn't it? And that's why studying the Han Dynasty is so important.
I agree.
It's a window into the development of Chinese thought.
And as we've been talking, I keep thinking about how relevant it all still is.
Me too.
Even today, we're still wrestling with those same questions of power and legitimacy.
It's timeless, isn't it?
Those Han philosophers were asking questions we're still trying to answer.
That's the power of history and philosophy.
They offer a new perspective.
They do. They help us examine ourselves, our societies, our beliefs.
It's like a conversation across millennia.
I love that. A conversation across millennia.
You've given us a lot to think about today.
It's been a pleasure.
We've journeyed through the Han Dynasty's philosophical landscape.
We have.
From a commoner-turned-emperor to those elaborate rituals.
Right.
From Taoist non-interference to Confucian state control.
And we even touched upon yin-yang theory and the 5 elements.
It's been a true deep dive.
It has.
And for you listening, here's something to consider.
Okay.
How do these ideas from so long ago still speak to us today? How can they shed light on how we understand power and the relationship between individuals and the state?
Great question.
It's a conversation worth having.
Definitely.
Because the past often holds surprising insights for the present.
I agree.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the philosophical code of the Han Dynasty